Hey, it didn't take me like half a year to make a video. Don't get used to it. Also, I fixed the camera. Hopefully, it should fucking stay in focus this time. Right? Also, I'm gonna try and get better at reading YouTube comments. Ever since the Chris Fenn video blew up, YouTube stopped sending me notifications for when my videos get comments. So yeah, I'll try and be better at that. Today, we're looking at Slipknot's All Hope Is Gone. So a lot of people kind of point to this as being their worst album. Is it? Well, how about we go find right out right now? So here is the introduction track. As with all of Slipknot's introduction pieces, it does a pretty good job at setting the mood and the overall themes for the album. I'd say by the title of the album, it's kind of obvious what it's going for. It's going for kind of a hopeless, maybe pessimistic look at the future and current politics, or at least 2008 politics. Or maybe I'm interpreting wrong and I'm a dumb. That's a possibility. As for the radio track itself, almost kind of it makes me feel like I'm listening to this radio signal from this post-apocalyptic kind of world. But other than Joey Jordison's insane drumming, there's not really a whole lot interesting with this track. I give it a 5 out of 10. It's okay. It's I don't particularly like it or dislike it. So for the first proper song off the album, and I considered this one to be quite an underrated one. It's also one of the most complicated and technically impressive songs Slipknot's ever written. It's also a pretty long song, like I think it's only about 6 minutes long, but it just keeps going because it feels like it has so many fake endings. Like it feels like it's just about to wrap up, but then it goes into another entirely different thing. To me, there's not really any point that sticks out to me though. It's pretty strong all the way through. I feel like I should probably also mention this now, but with each album, Corey Taylor, the vocalist, has kind of changed his vocals up a bit with each album, and this is like the deepest his vocals have ever gone, which lends itself well to the kind of hopeless look and atmosphere that the album's going for. I give this song about an 8 out of 10. Okay. Am I meant to spin this way? Spin this way? Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna spin this way. I feel dizzy now. So here's one of the more popular tracks off of the album, and I can see why. It's got pretty badass guitar riffs, especially in the intro, pretty catchy chorus, and a heavy outro as well. But with that being said, I'm personally not a huge fan of this track. I have some problems with it, but I'll talk about those on a different song because a lot of the songs on this album share the same issues. Also, I should mention this now, but with Joey Jordison, the drummer, he's pretty fucking phenomenal on almost every song. So if I point him out, that means it's special. I give this 7 out of 10. I know for a lot of people this is one of their favorite Slipknot songs, but I'm personally not that into it. This was one of the first Slipknot songs I ever heard. This was one of the first Slipknot songs I ever heard. Like my introduction to Slipknot. And as soon as I heard that riff, I was fucking hooked. But things have kind of changed since then. The more I've listened to Slipknot, the more I've kind of come to dislike this song. It just feels so far removed from the previous sounds of Slipknot, and in comparison it just feels a bit soulless and weightless, which is the issue that I kinda had with Sulphur, but personally I like Sulphur a bit more than this song. I give this a 6.5 out of 10. I think this was another song that I heard quite early on when I was listening to Slipknot that really gripped me into the band. It showed me that Slipknot isn't really as scary as they initially appear, or at least maybe not modern day Slipknot. Early Slipknot used to be fucking creepy. Anyways, this song is a pretty decent track. I feel Corey Taylor's vocals shine the most throughout this, but I think the guitars also get a chance to shine as well. There's not as much heavy power chords, but you know, they're still present. The guitar riffs are much more melodic and gentle. I give this a 7. It's a decent enough track. I feel like people who aren't into the heavy side of Slipknot would probably really like this song. So earlier when I was talking about Sulfur and Psychosocial, I mentioned some problems I had with those songs. I'm going to talk more about those problems again. A lot of the tracks off this album just sound very generic and alike. Anything negative I have to say about this song could easily be said about a lot of the songs on this album. Much like Psychosocial, it just feels soulless. And while it does have some good guitar riffs here and there, they're nowhere near as good as Psychosocial's. I give this a 6 out of 10. It's an okay song. It's got some decent guitar riffs, but it's not enough to save a track in my opinion. So here's one of the more angrier tracks off of the album. It's kind of between this one and a different one that we'll get into later for the angriest. Although, with the overall soundscape, you wouldn't really think that. The anger mostly comes from the lyrics, which paints the picture of a man who's just kind of tired of the world's shit and can't be asked with it anymore. Although this is another song that just feels kind of generic and weightless, and I think personally this is the worst of the bunch. Although the bridge and the outro are pretty decent, but sadly I think the verses and the intro are kind of ruined by the guitar riffs. I just can't put my finger on why I don't like it, but I just hate those riffs. There's just something about it that annoys me. I give this song a 4 out of 10. This is just a song that I don't like very much. Spooky, spooky, spooky. Song Spooky. I love it for that. This is my favorite song off of the whole album, due to it just kind of being the most unique. Now everything on this album is either angry political stuff or kind of sad personal stuff. That stuff's not really bad inherently, but it's just there's quite a lot of it on this album. But this one just sticks out the most. It feels so spooky. I love spooky stuff. This is like the perfect Halloween song. It has those eerie samples in the verses and the bass line as well, and it just feels so spooky. My goodness, can't stop saying the word spooky. The song doesn't have much of Corey doing, deep growling, but when he does, you just hear the snare just being smashed. Corey's vocals really shine, especially in the chorus. The chorus is as good as it is because he reaches such high notes during the chorus. I give this an 8.5 out of 10. It may not be a 10 out of 10 track, but it's my absolute favorite track off of the album, due to it just being the most unique and spooky. So here's one of the more angrier tracks off of the album. It's kind of between this one and a different one that we'll get into later. I was on about this song, and it's hard to tell, but this song certainly has much heavier guitar riffs and a just overall much more brutal sound to it. And those guitar riffs are much better than the ones on Butcher's Hook, and Joey's drumming is at its absolute best here. And also there's some backing vocals in the first verse at least. I'm not sure if it's in the second verse, I can't quite remember right now. But in the first verse at least there's some backing vocals that add a nice flavour to the overall soundscape. And the bridge is the absolute best part of the song. It always catches me off guard with how fucking brutal it is. Just the mixture of the double pedal drumming and the tremolo on the guitar is just... oh. Much like Gematria, the song doesn't really have a low point. It's pretty strong all the way through. But like I said, the bridge is the absolute high point of the song. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Thankfully this is where the album starts to pick up a bit and starts getting a bit better. So here's another song with a pretty heavy opening, although I'd say it's not quite as heavy as This Cold Flax. Also, this is one of the last songs I ever discovered by Slipknot, and I wish I had listened to it earlier, because it has an amazing chorus. I'm not sure if anyone's caught on yet, but if a song has a good chorus, I'm probably gonna love the song. I can't really put my finger onto why I like the chorus so much, it's just fucking beautiful, man. And Joey's drumming is, as usual, fucking great, especially in the second chorus. Second verse, actually. Second chorus is the same as the first chorus, although the third chorus does change things up a bit. It kind of repeats itself and sounds a bit different, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. It's a damn great song with a damn great chorus. 10 out of 10, fuck you for making me cry. Okay, maybe I should explain a bit more. I feel like this is one of Slipknot's most powerful songs. While I reviewed Point Five the Grey Chapter, I think I said on the song Goodbye that I think that song's sadder than Snuff, but I feel I can personally relate to Snuff more. I've not had any close friends or any family members pass away yet, but I know that love can fucking hurt. And the song just has so much build up too. In the at the beginning, it's just Corey, an acoustic guitar, maybe some background guitar stuff as well. And then as the song progresses, adds the drums, adds the bass, adds an extra guitar. And then at the bridge, just this all-out wall of sound just assaulting your ears. I know there's some people that don't really like it when Slipknot does sad, sappy stuff, but I personally think they can pull it off pretty well, and I think this is their best one. Just the line, "It took the death of hope to let you go," just, ugh, right in the heart. I also wasn't joking when I said I was giving this song a 10 out of 10. I think this song absolutely earns that ranking. So now for the final song, and first things first, why would you put a song as brutal as this right after Snuff? You think you'd maybe want to put a song in between that or something to kind of settle it a bit? No? Okay. I say that because this is one of the more brutal tracks off of the album, so to go from one of the saddest songs Slipknot's ever written to a really brutal and complex written song, just kind of shocks the system a bit, And this is a really brutal song, especially in the verses and the bridge, with the tremolo guitars going on. And I have tried my hand at playing this on guitar, and this is one of the hardest songs I think Slipknot's ever written, along with Gematria. Also, the drumming on this is just absurd. I think this is probably the most insane drumming Joey does on this album. And I'm not sure if blast beats is one of those things that are actually easier than they look, but as a petite little boy with no stamina, I would surely struggle with it. It is also the most political song on the whole album. A lot of the songs on this album are either about politics or have political undertones to them, but this one's the most obvious about its subject matter out of all of them, I'd say. I give this an 8 out of 10, mainly for the badass guitar riffs and the drumming. I feel like this is a pretty good final song. It really packs that final song punch while also being really heavy and sticking to the themes of the album. Just kidding, that wasn't the final song, because there's a special version of this album, which I didn't even know until I was writing this review. Along with Gehenna, this is one of the songs that stick out to me the most, due to it not really being a super heavy song or a sad personal song, although I think it is a bit more personal, just not a sad one, more of a liberating song, I'd say. It has this really cold atmosphere to it, and it paints quite a picture with its lyrics. I feel like this is another song where Corey Taylor's vocals stand out from everything else. The other instruments are fairly decent, but they don't shine like Corey's vocals do during this song. I'd say overall, it's a fairly decent song. It does a good job of standing out from the others, but that doesn't necessarily make it any better than the others. I give this a 6.5 out of 10. It feels kind of out of place with this album and kind of kills the momentum. So here's the real final song off of the album, and it's a song that's kind of changed over time. It's a song about brotherhood, whether that be friends or family. But since the passing of Paul Gray, Slipknot's bassist, it's kind of hard not to think about him when you listen to this song. But sadly, I feel like this isn't a great final song. It just doesn't pack the punch that a good final song should. Although one thing I do really like about the song that none of the other songs really do that much is kind of puts a spotlight on the samples. You can really hear it best in the intro when it has this old kind of carnival music playing. It almost gives me feelings of nostalgia, even though I've never been to a carnival. I also like how towards the end of the song, it is just this all-out wall of sound before in the outro it kind of all silently comes down to a bittersweet tone. I'm giving this song a 6.5 as well. I feel like it's a decent song, but it's just not a great final song. It doesn't pack that punch that it should. I feel like All Hope Is Gone was a much better final song than this. I feel like All Hope Is Gone fits better contextually as the final song compared to this. This feels slightly out of place compared to the themes the album was going with before. Okay, so for my final thoughts on the album, I'm giving both versions of this album a 5 out of 10. If you're going to listen to the album, I'd recommend listening to the regular version. The special edition, although it does add 2 songs, I feel those 2 songs kind of kill the pace of the album and feel slightly out of place. I don't really hate either versions of the album though. I feel like they're okay, they're just not particularly great. I honestly feel just kind of indifferent about it. It's got quite a few good songs on here, some underrated tracks that I don't ever hear anyone talking about. But I feel the album just lacks a good atmosphere. A lot of the songs just feel soulless and weightless. With some of the songs like Snuff and Dead Memories, you can feel the love for their craft through the songs, but you can't really say that about most of the songs on this album. So is this their worst album? I'd say it's certainly their weakest. I don't think it's a bad album by any means, it's just okay. I'd say my top 5 tracks for this is All Hope Is Gone, This Cold Black, Wherein Lies Continue, Snuff, and Gehenna. But that is pretty much it for this video. I will see you in the next one.